Humble Mars Komagatake Single Malt Japanese Whiskey. Is this worth looking out for? Stay tuned for the Whisky Whistle. Ohayo gozaimasu. Hello, my whiskey people. Mark Hoffman here for Whisky Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, bringing you a super interesting, very unusual, almost hard to find Japanese single malt whiskey, a bona fide Japanese whiskey. It's a single malt, it's a real Japanese single malt, and this is Komagatake from the Humble Mars Distillery. I picked this up, by the way, a couple of years ago, so if that was 2021, probably it's a 2020 bottle, so then therefore it's no more than 8 or 9 years old, and probably it's more like 6 or 7 or 8. It's 52% ABV. I have no information about chill filtering or color being added, so let's assume that there is color added and that it is chill filtered. And from a failed review that I just tried to do, I have this glass that's already ready to go. So we'll go with this one. I haven't even tasted it yet. I spilt a pile, however, so I've got to make myself a new white color background, but I'll use this one for now since it's right there. Anyway, we're going to check out the color of the whiskey. We will check out the legs of the whiskey. Then we'll get into the tasting. First, the nosing. We'll check out the nose. And then finally, we'll taste it. And then we'll repeat that process with a little bit of water added before giving it a Whisky Whistle whiskey score. Now, have you tried this? Have you tried Komagatake? Have you tried anything from the Humble Mars Distillery, like their EY Tradition Japanese whiskey? Please leave a comment. And this one, by the way, I didn't actually mention the full name of it. This is from their Nature of Shinshu collection. They put one out, I believe, every year. And this one is the Shinanotanpopo edition. Shinanotanpopo. Try and say that 10 times really fast. Shinanotanpopo, 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 Shinanotanpopo. Well, I did okay there, at least for 3. So 52%. And the color, I was going to say, let's look at the color here. It's got a nice bright golden hue. And my first thoughts of this as I was smelling it over the last, I drank a fair bit while I was in quarantine when I came back from Korea in 2021. 2020? It might have been 2020, actually. It might be 2.5 years ago, actually. Could very well be. I drank a fair bit of it, and then I thought, okay, well, I can't have any more because I want to review this, and I wanted to wait for the right time, and the time is now. Nice golden hue. We'll have a look at the legs as well. Looks like there's a tiny reddish ambery hue there as well, which may be owing to the fact that there are some sherry casks in this vatting. If we've got bourbon casks, sherry casks, and I believe virgin white oak barrels. They don't say that it's virgin, it just says white oak barrels, but that's probably what we're talking about here. Okay, so the legs, let's see what we have for legs. Well, pretty slow first legs. I don't know if you saw that on the side there. And the secondary legs also very, very slowly trickling down. So I'm expecting some reasonable viscosity, some reasonable thickness in mouthfeel. Let's see if I'm right about that. But first of all, we will check out the nose. Before that, however, make sure you subscribe to Whisky Whistle. Subscribe. Hit the little emblem right over here. I think it's like a bright green color right over there. You find it. And then click on the bell, ding, ding, so that you're notified of future Whisky Whistles. And if you're enjoying a lot of Whisky Whistle content, check me out on Patreon. Support the channel and become a Whisky Whistle crewmate. That is Patreon, patreon.com/Whisky Whistle. You'll find me there. You'll get your name in the credits at the end of each video. You'll also get advanced viewership of Whisky Whistle content and live streams. You'll get your own Whisky Whistle whiskey glass beyond a certain threshold. I've got to get more of these ordered in. And last but not least, eventually t-shirts coming in as well. I'm getting a little bit tired of the prototype, and I'm actually losing weight, so this is getting very big. Okay, so on to the nose. Now, sure, there may be some sherry and some bourbon casks here, but wow, that virgin oak is very much at the forefront here. I've got wood spices. I have some rich toffees. So a buttery toffee. All of those baking spices. We've got some cinnamon. We have some nutmeg as well. That's a really good sign for me when I can smell nutmeg. Some orange rind, candied orange rind. That toffee. And some really different type of, well, I'll just use the word, I don't know, like some Asian kind of like grassy spices. Really, really enjoyable nose, however. And the alcohol isn't punching you in the face, even though it's 52%. So you've got something very, very well aged, and the distillation process has been very effective in getting the very best out of that distillate. And as a lover of Canadian single malts, I'm a little bit reminded of some of the two brewers releases that have been cask strength that use some virgin oak. All right, let's get on to the palate. Cheers, everybody. First off, it is quite deliciously sweet, dessert-like. Still lots of spices, some big vanilla bean vanilla. Something like butter pecan. So very warming spice. Nutty. Baking spices. That candied orange rind coming back on the palate as well. Hints of citrus peppered throughout. And then moving into this very big, ultra flavorful, juicy, hefty, very substantial finish here. Wow. Coming back on this after a couple of years of self-study of whiskey, this is really really a wonderful whiskey. And if you do see Komagatake in the wild, I suggest that you grab yourself a bottle, as long as the price is reasonable for you. Now I wonder, I mean, do they use some of the really old barrels that they have from 85 to 92 in some of their vattings? If they did, that would be great. I am getting something kind of very old, almost leathery style, which would tell me that they might, but you know, those would be very limited, and if they do ever sell those, they're going to be very expensive. Mid-palate, the spice really kicks up. That nutmeg, almost more potent mace, a little bit of white pepper, and then it hits a peak, and then when you swallow, it's just a sweet, spicy, ongoing, delicious flavor carrying on with the finish. Final taste here, neat. It also has some wonderful, slightly astringent herbals. I mentioned that on the nose. You got some Asian grasses. They're making their way back in the palate here, also in the finish, just hiding there behind all of that spice. and nuttiness that this clearly has going for it. Really great. Okay, so let's get on to adding some water here. I'll add the Highland water from Whiskey Source. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. About 1 milliliter added there to what looks like about 30 milliliters left. And we'll give it a nice little shake. And with that water added, now I can see some of the sherry notes coming through here. Some very, very ripe plums. And a little bit of raspberry peeking in here. So that's a really lovely addition. And you know, we're still going to be, well, you can do that math in your head, I'm sure. We had 52% at 30 milliliters, which is 5.2, 5.2, 5.2, 15.6 milliliters of pure alcohol. And now we have 31 milliliters. Okay, so we're down to about 50%, plus or minus, depending on how much whiskey there actually was in there. And so, yeah, you get this sherry coming through, which is great. That raspberry and the ripe red plums. And then let's check the palate out together. Kanpai. So I mentioned the butter pecan. And things have just gotten so much more buttery here. Buttery in flavor, buttery in texture as well. So something a little bit salty, something a little bit milky, something a little bit umami added in there. Everything else is pretty much the same. It's just making it a tiny little bit sweeter, and that nuttiness, that butteriness, a little bit ramped up. The finish is a little bit more astringent with the water added, but still trails out very sweet and spicy. And I'm going to have a little bit of coffee just to wake up my palate a little bit, because I feel like my mouth is now neutralized to this flavor. So I want to go back to 0 and see where we're at. And again, the spice content of this whiskey mixed with hot coffee really makes it seem like it's like scalding hot, which is really neat. I'll take a very tiny sip here. That citrus still there. Then you've got those red fruits, the raspberry, and the red, bright red, ripe plums as well. Oh, one final taste here. It's just super potent. And I think that's one thing you can say about Japanese single malts. Despite the strength for a lot of them, which are 43%, 45% for Nika, 43% for Suntory. This one being 52%, which, yeah, probably it's getting close to cask strength here. But there is just a lot going on there. And that makes it really, really attractive. And I think that the price of this one, which I can tell you, as low as about 130 euro. Okay. So more like the average is more like around 200 euro. I didn't pay that much. I think I paid maybe 180,000 won in Korea. But 180,000 won, and it's this enjoyable, despite the fact that it's a little on the younger side. It's got a great flavor story to tell, and truly, truly enjoyable. I swallowed that wrong. Now my voice is gone. Delicious whiskey. Do not breathe in whiskey. All right, well, let's get on to the Whiskey Whistle whiskey score for Hombo Mars Komagatake. This is the nature of Shinshu. Shinanotanpopo. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 89 out of 100. You heard it. 89 out of 100 is the Whiskey Whistle whiskey score for Komagatake from Mars, Hombo Mars Distillery. Deserves a definite malt hug, a Japanese malt hug, and a nice little kiss right on the Shinanotanpopo. Looks like dandelions. Is that what that word means? Shinanotanpopo. Give you a popo. It's a nice Korean word to learn. Popo, which means to kiss someone, like a little peck. Whiskey popo. There we go. So very good stuff. Let me know your thoughts on this review. Tell me what you think of the Hombo Mars Distillery, their EY tradition, and their Komagatake. If you've had the experience, I expect I'll hear a lot from Korean and Japanese and maybe Taiwanese followers of the channel, or people that find me through this video. So let me know your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you next time. What's going to be next? We're going to go back to Scotland, and I think we're going to try the older edition of Talisker 18. So we'll go back up to very, very nicely aged whiskey, to Talisker, and then I think I'm really overdue for the Kwaicha Mutai. So maybe that'll be next. Anyway, so 89 points for the Komagatake. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.